The door was locked from the outside. It had been locked for 23 years, 6 months, and 11 days. At 2:10 a.m., something inside the empty bedroom knocked 3 times. And from the hallway where no one stood, something knocked back. Case file number 107. The Lemp Brewery Quarters. Street. Lewis, Missouri. The archive does not explain. It only records. It recorded the temperature in quarter 14, collapsing from 73 degrees to 41 in the silence between 2 knocks. It recorded the scent of kerosene and charred hair saturating the hallway at 2:10 a.m. every night, without variation, without mercy, for 23 years. It recorded the sound of a woman's knuckles striking the inside of the front door, wet, splintering, insistent, long after the coroner had scraped her body from the floorboards. The door is still locked from the outside, but something inside has never stopped waiting for it to open. Do you want to know what was waiting behind that door when it was finally unlocked at 3:25 a.m.? Viewer discretion is advised. The housing coordinator did not look at him. He slid a key across the counter. Quarter 14. It's the only one available. He did not mention the previous tenants. He did not mention the scorch marks on the back door frame that 6 coats of paint could not smother. He did not mention the family who had fled in the middle of the night 30 years ago, leaving food on the table, shoes by the door, a daughter's stuffed bear still warm in her bed. Henry Coleman took the key. He had worked the Lemp Brewery for 11 years. He knew the copper kettle groan of the place after midnight. He knew the river silt that seeped into basements each spring. He did not know quarter 14. No one did. No one had lived there since 1951. His wife Margaret stepped through the front door, and the rosary in her coat pocket turned cold against her palm. Not winter cold. Grave cold. The cold of something that had been waiting in darkness so long it had forgotten warmth entirely. She said nothing. She placed a crucifix above the threshold and told her 16-year-old son to enter first, carrying the family Bible. Let the word go before us. Samuel walked into the dark hallway. The floorboards exhaled beneath his weight. The air tasted of copper and scorched sugar. He set the Bible on the kitchen counter. When he turned toward the back bedroom, he saw her. A woman in the doorway. Her dress was burned to her skin. Her hair was gone. Her mouth stretched open in a scream that had no air, no sound, no end. Her hands were raised, fingers hooked, beating against a door that was not there. She was not a shadow. She was not a trick of light. She was solid enough to cast one. Samuel blinked. The doorway was empty. The air smelled of gasoline. He did not tell his mother. He did not trust his eyes. But for the rest of that afternoon, his palms itched. By evening, small red welts had risen in the creases of his fingers. By midnight, they had spread to his wrists. They formed a pattern he could not recognize, but his body already knew. 5 slender marks, a woman's hand pressed into his skin, gripping tight. Henry worked the late shift. Every 3rd month, brewery officers conducted night inspections. His rotation fell on the 8th night in quarter 14. He kissed Margaret's forehead while she slept. He locked the front door from the outside. He walked toward the brewery without looking back. At 2:10 a.m., the knocking began. 3 strikes against the front door. Deliberate. Rhythmic. Not the panicked pounding of distress. The knock of someone who expected to be let in. Someone who had struck this door 1,000 times. Someone who knew the grain of the wood, the rattle of the hinges, the exact pressure required to make the deadbolt shiver. Margaret woke. The crucifix above the threshold was swinging, gently, soundlessly, though no air moved through the sealed house. She did not rise. She pulled the blankets to her chin. She began the rosary. Hail Mary, full of grace. The knocking continued. The Lord is with thee. It grew louder. Blessed art thou among women. It became desperate. 3 strikes, 3 more, as if the person on the other side was running out of time. And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. At 2:30 a.m., the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was worse. It was a silence that listened. A silence that knew she was alone. At 2:17 a.m., the smell of kerosene had seeped beneath the bedroom door. By 2:31 a.m., it was gone. Henry returned at 3:25 a.m. He unlocked the door. He undressed in the dark. He slid into bed. Margaret did not tell him about the knocking. She did not tell him about the crucifix that swung without wind. She closed her eyes and prayed for dawn. But in the back bedroom, Samuel was not sleeping. He was staring at his bedroom door. He had heard the knocking. He had heard something else too, a sound from inside his room. A single knock against the wall beside his bed. From the inside. He did not sleep. He watched the doorknob. It did not turn, but the brass grew cold. Cold enough that frost bloomed across its surface in the shape of 5 fingers. On the 3rd night, Samuel saw his mother in the hallway. He had just finished a game, his eyes dry, his bladder full. He stepped into the corridor. Margaret emerged from the bathroom. He nearly spoke, but the words died in his throat. She moved past him without acknowledgement. Her feet made no sound. Her nightgown brushed the floor with a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Samuel stood frozen, one hand on the bathroom frame, and watched her glide toward the master bedroom. Her feet did not touch the floor. They hovered 2 inches above the wood, toes pointed downward, ankles slack, skin gray as river stone. She turned her head as she passed him. Her lips pulled back. Her teeth were gray. Her eyes were not his mother's eyes. They were black, wet, and in their reflection something was burning. She made a sound. 4 sharp exhalations. Hey. 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 Not a laugh. The sound of someone trying to breathe through a throat packed with ash. Then she was gone. Samuel spoke. His voice cracked. Mom. What's wrong with you? The figure stopped. Its body rotated without its feet moving. A slow, mechanical turn. The face was not Margaret's. The features were correct but arranged wrong. The eyes too wide. The mouth too loose. The skin stretched across the cheekbones like fabric pulled over a frame that did not fit. Its jaw opened. The voice that came out was wet and crackling and smelled like gasoline. Let me in. Samuel backed into his room. He locked the door. He pressed his spine against the wall. For 20 minutes, silence. Then a single knock against his bedroom door. From inside his room. From the closet. From the dark. He did not open his eyes until sunlight burned through the window. His sheets were soaked, not with sweat, with something darker. Something that smelled like river water and dead leaves and kerosene. The handprint on his chest had darkened to a bruise. The Lemp Brewery was founded in 1840 by Johann Adam Lemp, a German immigrant who built an empire on lager and limestone caverns. By 1890, it was one of the largest breweries in America. The employee quarters were constructed that same year, 40 identical brick houses in neat rows along the eastern perimeter. Workers lived rent-free. The brewery demanded loyalty. silence, and the willingness to look away when things happened in the quarters that could not be explained. The Lemp family suffered its own unraveling. 3 suicides in the mansion. A 4th in the brewery office. The family line withered. The brewery closed in 1922. But the quarters remained occupied for decades after. New workers, new families, new names that meant nothing to the walls, that remembered everything. Quarter 14 had a smell no paint could cover. On February 17, 1951, Clara Weiss burned alive inside that house. She was 29. Her death certificate listed thermal trauma and smoke inhalation. It did not list the grooves her charred knuckles had worn into the inside of the front door. It did not list that she had beaten her fists against the wood until the bones showed through. It did not list that the door was locked from the outside. It did not list that her husband, Frederick Weiss, had stood in the hallway and watched. He had poured kerosene over her head. He had struck the match. Clara had run for the front door. She had screamed for him to open it. He had watched. He had listened to her hands splinter against the wood. He had watched until she stopped moving. Then he unlocked the door, dragged her body to the curb, and went back inside. Frederick Weiss was hanged in 1952. Before the rope dropped, he told the warden something that was not entered into the official record. He said Clara would not stay dead. He said she stood at the foot of his cell every night at 2:10 a.m., her skin smoking, her mouth open, her ruined hands reaching for a door handle that was no longer there. He said she would keep knocking until someone let her in. The warden dismissed it. But the night guard reported that Frederick Weiss died with his eyes open and his mouth stretched into a smile. 24 hours after his execution, the front door of quarter 14 began to knock. It has not stopped. Margaret called her mother in Boston. Evelyn Malloy was 81 years old, a woman touched by gifts the church did not sanction. She could hear voices in empty rooms. She could feel the temperature of a soul from 3 states away. She listened to her daughter's voice for 30 seconds, then began to pray in Irish, old words, pre-Christian words, words buried by centuries of peat and silence. 45 minutes later, she called back. Her sister-in-law's voice was trembling. "Evelyn wants to tell you something," the line crackled. A third voice bled through the static, distant, rhythmic, like knuckles on hollow wood. Then Evelyn's voice erupted from the receiver. It was not her voice. It was too deep, too resonant, too full of something that had been waiting to speak for a very long time. "Margaret, run from that house tonight. Do not wait for morning. Do not pack. Take Samuel and run. If that door opens between 2 and 2:30, it will take your son. It will take Henry. It will take you. Run." Now, the line went dead. Evelyn arrived in St. Louis 1 week later. She was smaller than Margaret remembered. Her hands shook. She did not enter quarter 14. She stood on the front step, her palm hovering an inch from the scorched doorframe, and wept. "She's still knocking," Evelyn whispered. "Every night. The same 3 strikes. She doesn't know she's dead. She thinks her husband is still inside. She thinks he'll open the door this time. She doesn't understand that he was the one who lit the match. She walked the perimeter. She stopped at the back door. She pressed her palm flat against the scorch marks. Her lips moved without sound for 7 minutes. When she opened her eyes, something black and thin ran down her cheeks. Not tears. Something else. Something that smelled like ash. She loved a man who was not her husband. Her husband found them. He poured the kerosene. She ran for the front door. Evelyn's voice cracked. She beat her fists against it until the bones showed through. She screamed for him to open it. He stood in the hallway and watched. He watched her burn. He watched her die. And when it was over, he unlocked the door and dragged her body to the curb and went back inside like nothing had happened. She turned to face the family. Her expression was not fear. It was grief. The door was locked from the outside, Margaret. The same way Henry locks it when he leaves for his inspections. The same hour. The same lock. The same key in the same hand. She doesn't know the difference anymore. She thinks Henry is Frederick. She thinks if she knocks hard enough, long enough, desperately enough, he will finally open the door and let her back in. Evelyn performed the ritual in the back bedroom, the room where Samuel had seen the woman with the burned dress. She burned sage and black salt. She spoke in Latin and Irish and a third language that made the walls vibrate. Her body trembled. Her eyes rolled white. Her mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open. The temperature in the room dropped 40 degrees in the space of a breath. The floorboards beneath Evelyn's feet split with a sound like a woman screaming. The walls wept, not water, but something black and thick and cold, something that smelled of kerosene and charred hair and Mississippi River silt that had been creeping into basements since before the brewery was built. Evelyn's voice was steady. Her eyes were still white. Clara Weiss, you are dead. Your husband is dead. The man you loved is dead. The door you beat your hands against has been painted 6 times. Your body is ash. Your name is forgotten. You are bound to this hour, to 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. You will knock. You will not enter. You will repeat this until the earth takes this house, or until the Lord releases you. But if the front door opens between these minutes, if any living soul opens that door during the hour of your death, you will take the man of the house with you. You will make him see what Frederick saw. You will make him feel what you felt. And he will not return. In the next room, Samuel felt the handprint on his chest ignite, one searing pulse of heat, then go cold. The welts on his fingers faded. The bruise dissolved like a stain reversing through time. He did not wake, but his hands uncurled, and the knocking that had echoed inside his ribs for 3 weeks stopped. The crucifix above the front door stopped swinging. The scorch marks on the back door frame darkened, then faded, then darkened again, once, twice, 3 times. Like a pulse. Like a knock. Like a heart that had stopped beating in 1951 but had never stopped waiting. Then silence. Not peace. Not resolution. The silence of something bound but not banished. Something patient. Something still standing in the doorway of the back bedroom, her dress still smoking, her mouth still open, her hands still raised to a door that was not there. Waiting. The Colemans moved out 41 days later. Henry found another quarter, 3rd floor, no elevator. Margaret climbed the stairs with her aching knees and never complained. Samuel's rash never returned. The handprint never reappeared. He never spoke of the woman in the hallway again. But he woke at 2:10 a.m. every night for the next 7 years. He woke with the taste of kerosene on his tongue. He woke with the sound of 3 knocks echoing in his chest. Somewhere Clara Weiss had touched and marked and claimed. Margaret never told Henry what she heard on the nights he worked his inspections. She never told him about the crucifix that swung without wind. She never told him about the smell of burnt hair that followed her through the house at 2:17 a.m. But for the rest of her life, she could not look at a locked door without pressing her palm against it to make sure the wood was cold. Evelyn returned to Boston. She died 3 years later in her sleep, her rosary wrapped around her fingers. On the night of her death, The scorch marks on the back door frame of quarter 14 faded one final shade darker. The maintenance crew painted over them the next morning. They did not know what they were covering. They did not ask. The Lemp Brewery is closed. The employee quarters are abandoned. The windows of quarter 14 are boarded. The front door is still locked from the outside. The lock is rusted. The key is lost. But the knocking continues. The archive has received 17 reports from quarter 14 since 1951. 12 describe knocking. 8 describe a woman's figure in the hallway, hovering, her dress still smoking, her mouth still stretched around a scream that has no sound. 5 describe a voice speaking 4 words, "Let me in. Please. Let me in. Please." 4 report rashes forming the shape of a woman's hand. 2 describe the smell of kerosene in rooms with no fuel source. 1 report, submitted in 1998 by a security guard hired to patrol the abandoned complex, describes a sound that was not knocking, a sound that was not a voice, a sound that was something dragging itself across the floorboards of the back bedroom, inch by inch, year by year, waiting for the door to open at the right hour. It has not stopped waiting. Clara Weiss is still there. She is still knocking. She is still pressing her ruined hands against a door that will never open. She does not know her husband is dead. She does not know the door has been painted 6 times. She does not know the man who locked her inside was hanged in 1952 and buried in an unmarked grave. She only knows the door is locked and someone is on the other side, and if she knocks hard enough, long enough, desperately enough, someone will finally let her in. Do not answer. If you ever find yourself in St. Louis, walking past the abandoned brewery quarters at night, and you hear 3 knocks from inside a boarded house with scorch marks on the doorframe, do not approach. Do not let your curiosity lead you to that threshold. Because Clara Weiss is not knocking to get out. She is knocking to be let in. This is case file number 107. The Lemp Brewery Quarters. Street, Louis, Missouri. Good night. If you have lived in a house where doors knocked themselves, where a face that was not your mother's stood in the hallway at night, where the smell of smoke came from rooms with no flame, send your account to contact.thedreadcodex@gmail.com. Your truth enters the archive. Your warning becomes part of the record. Until next time, may your doors stay locked at the right hours. May your hallways show you only the ones you love. May you never hear 3 knocks at 2:10 a.m. And if you ever find yourself in an old brewery quarter and the front door is standing open, do not walk through. Some thresholds remember what crossed them. Some fires never stop burning. And some women are still knocking, 75 years after their hearts stopped, waiting for a husband who will never come home. Sweet dreams.